My guest today is LaShonda Hodge, the Managing Director of Customer Experience for the Centers of Excellence at the General Services Administration. LaShonda, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Jason, for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
There's so much to talk about when we talk about customer experience, customer service. That has been such a buzzword for such a long time. So this is a little different. We're going to talk a lot about technology. We're going to talk about process improvements. And most of all, we're going to talk about the people side of it. So let's just start there at the very beginning. We know the Centers of Excellence has had a customer experience program for quite a while. It's been one of the initial 5 areas of engagement. Let's discuss, what are you working on? What does your program cover? I read through the playbook. You can mention that, of course. So let's start at the beginning. What does the Center of Excellence do around customer experience?
Okay. Yeah, that's a great question. So I like to start off by talking about COE at large, because it was stood up to accelerate IT modernization across government. And as you know, we help agencies make their services more accessible and effective with modern applications, platforms, processes, and software solutions by providing technical expertise in cloud, contact center, customer experience, data analytics, infrastructure optimization, and artificial intelligence. And then we collaborate on those projects with our partners' workforce to ensure that success and longevity stays beyond our engagement, which is really important, because we could do a bunch of work, but if we leave and we haven't imparted that knowledge with that agency staff, then it kind of all falls flat. And our goal is really to have that the things that we do be sustained over time. But to accelerate IT modernization across government and to do it well, customer experience really has to be a foundational element of the work that the COE does. And so we take a customer-centric approach to engage with customers, especially the public, to develop new solutions, which includes solutions around policy, services, product, and technology, and better communicating with and reaching those customers to ensure they can access those new solutions. We help our partners see the value in working that way, and then we help them understand how this way of thinking and working can be operationalized. And so you mentioned the playbook, and we're kind of reevaluating and making new updates to that. And we have a kind of a larger framework that we like to use to help infuse customer experience into how they do business, looking at these 5 core components: measurement. So what are the mechanisms do they have in place to collect and analyze data for customer experience related outcomes? Governance and strategy. Have they institutionalized CX? Holding agency leaders accountable? Do they have defined processes and aligned business initiatives with the customers at the center? Culture and or organization. Do they have CX experts in-house? Do they take risks and fail fast and quickly learn? And have they helped all the employees put the needs of agency customers at the center of what they do? Customer understanding. Do they collect qualitative and quantitative data about customer needs and customer journeys as evidence to what the real problems are they need to be solving? And then service design and improvement. So how do you go about fixing broken services or introducing new ones? So do they do that with their customers and the needs at the center of that development? Do they use agile methodologies to speed delivery? And things like that. So this framework really helps us determine where agencies need improvement and what tactics organizations can take to move towards becoming more customer-centric, making that mindset shift to infuse customer experience into the way they do business. So we like to bring that into the forefront to really help move people into this really customer-centric mindset. And I think that's really worked well with the agencies that we work with.
All right, several things I want to follow up with you on, especially with those 5 core components. Before we do that, though, let me just take a half a step back. The IT Modernization Center of Excellence, that was one of those foundational elements you went through. I think the initial 5. You all added artificial intelligence later on, and I think maybe one other one, if I remember. Has the view, and I know you've been at the COEs for about a year and a half. You're a pre-pandemic hire. Welcome to the government. Jump right in. You're working from home all the time now, right? But how has the focus on customer experience maybe evolved over not just the last year, but last 3 to 5 years as the Centers of Excellence has evolved? Can you offer a little bit of historical viewpoint?
Well, I think history, CX is one of those things that hasn't necessarily been, people talk about it, right? But people don't always decide that that's what they need. And so what we've realized is that sometimes we need to frame customer experience in a different way in order to basically um, how to use the agency's needs around technology to help them understand how customer experience is integral to actually choosing like how to modernize their IT. And so I feel like a lot of things that we've done in this past year is really try to reframe customer experience into like hearing the agency's needs and then saying, okay, here's what you need. Let's do kind of our human-centered design approach to kind of help you meet those business needs. And then later on, show you that it was because we use this human-centered design approach and this kind of customer focus and customer experience framework and methodology in order to do your IT modernization. And I think that also helps us show these like really great value around CX, because a lot of times people, people think CX, great idea. They think they're doing it well already, but kind of bringing it into the business needs that they're looking at today and kind of showing them that value around customer experience through doing projects with them that help them have better outcomes than they would have had otherwise, I think has really helped. So it's more that we've kind of taken the frame and changed the frame a bit to basically help people see the value in it without explicitly always like shining CX in people's faces. So that's kind of what I see as the kind of the evolution in the way that we've been working with agencies in the most recent months.
It sounds like that's a pretty, it's almost like you're taking the coming from the side view instead of the direct on, because if people hear customer experience, you got to look at customer service, you have to do customer journey mapping. Oh, yeah, we do it already. And then you find out, well, you don't, but it's really when you solve the problem, then you bring the kind of the customer to, kind of around the back, if you will, around the side to say, oh, here's where the customer fits in. You mentioned that the playbook, you're rethinking it, you're looking at these 5 core components. Maybe we should walk through those 5 core components a little bit more. First of all, will this be a quote unquote new playbook, or is this an addendum to the playbook? How are you all thinking about it right now?
I think it's more of a framework. I got to go back to the other parts of the question, but I think it's more of a framework on how we kind of institutionalize customer experience. The playbook is more kind of you're already kind of in that mindset. Here are some things that you can do. But in order for it to be a sustainable practice within an organization, it has to have these very, very specific components in order for you to do it well. Sometimes you have people who just have the qualitative data and it's just like this really siloed piece within one part of the organization. So they do it, but it's just not spread throughout the agency. And so these components are really helpful because it allows us to figure out how mature agencies are. And then what we can do with them is basically what are some accelerators in these specific areas that are going to allow you to really move from like that basic level of maturity into a much more mature customer experience and customer focused organization throughout the organization, not just these like pockets of excellence that we often see at agencies. So like some people really do get it, right? It's often this really small part of an agency, or they think that CX is something extra that they need to do rather than how someone goes about doing business. Like if you are creating IT, if you're creating technology, if you're creating processes, the customer needs to be the center of that. And we are trying to teach people to, whatever they're doing within that agency, use those customers as the center of how you decide what to build, what processes to put in place, what skills you need to have. And so I think the playbook is good for people in like really small spaces who are kind of already thinking about customer experience, whereas this framework really helps to institutionalize it across the agency. It's much more broad. It's much more about sustainability than to like getting something like a project done.
I think that's a really helpful, if you will, differentiation between the two. We in the news business, we get excited when you hear something new, something different. So thank you for doing that. Um, just one, the other piece of this framework is you talk about the 5 components, and again, we'll get into each of those in a second. Are you rolling them out? Are they in use across different agencies, or where are they in that whole maturity stage of development and thought process?
So we are kind of piloting it at one of the agencies that we're working with now. We're refining it based on kind of what we've been doing at one of our agencies to really make sure that it's got, all the core elements in order to bring it to a new agency. We actually have, we've done one of these assessments, and we are going to present the findings to their leadership in the upcoming week. So we'll see how, the reaction and how people feel about what we've done there. But I really do think that this kind of first pilot will give us the opportunity to really test it out, implement it with that organization, and see what else we need to add to it, what else we need to modify, what else do we need to evolve, since this is our kind of first pilot. So.
All right. I'm going to ask you which agency, and I know your answer is going to be we're not really prepared to talk about it. So I'll just ask that question anyways. Can you tell us which agency you're piloting with?
I am not prepared to.
There you go. I knew that was the answer somehow. Now I know you've worked in the past with HUD and the Jake over at DoD. Is that from that work you did, again, HUD, Jake, and others from the CRE? Is that where this kind of framework kind of grew from, where you said, hey, we need something more than just the playbook, which is as you said, maybe for organizations that are a little more mature?
Yes. Because there are agencies that really are at the grounds level of really trying to understand what customer experience is and what it can do and what that value is, and being able to really take it and make it stick. I've seen people bring in journey mapping. I've seen people bring in kind of the basic customer experience kind of artifacts and processes, but it doesn't actually have the investment from the people within the agency, and that stuff doesn't get adopted. And so we need to make sure that it's well coordinated across those 5 core components in order for it to be invested in. The other thing is that executives love a good framework. And so having something that you can point to and show them that these are the 5 components that you need in order to make this work, it really kind of provides them with a comfort in knowing that there is kind of a formula, right, to actually being able to make this sustainable. So really kind of being at the bottom level at some of those agencies and really understanding, okay, there is literally nothing here. We need to be able to kind of pull out those components to help them mature. And it's taken a lot from kind of the private sector, right? The private sector model. What are the things that are required to make an organization customer focused in the private sector? So we've taken a lot of pieces from that in order to develop this framework.
All right, sounds like we're going to have more to talk about maybe in the future once you get that pilot done. LaShonda, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we can continue our conversation. My guest is LaShonda Hodge, the Managing Director of Customer Experience for the Centers of Excellence at the General Services Administration. I'm Jason Miller, and you're listening to Ask the CIO, sponsored by Sprinklr on Federal News Network.